another number that I'd like you to call maybe first. If you don't get me on that one, you can try the home number. And that is area code 208
Okay.
286 1826. So
Okay.
basically, if I can summarize this, I'm founder of People for Mathematically Perfected Economy. Michelle may or may not already know of me, but my work is the original monetary thesis, which is spawned all the plagiarism on the internet. In other words, in 1968, I actually published mathematic proofs that any economy based on interest-bearing debt ultimately terminates itself under insoluble debt. In fact, I corresponded extensively with the Reagan campaign and first Reagan administration, and I may very well be the reason that David Stockman resigned from the Office of Management and Budget. But I provided the Reagan administration with computer models, which you can still download, still run 1980s numbers, and which projected the present failure would transpire at approximately 2010 AD. As a matter of merely maintaining a vital circulation under the present obfuscation of the currency. So what I'm offering is what have proven over 43 years to be irrefutable proofs of a singular monetary solution, which I actually prescribed to the Reagan campaign in 1979, a method of immediately converting the present system into mathematically perfected economy, saving it from inevitable failure. And as I advised the Reagan administration, even before he famously turned to Jimmy Carter and pronounced the $150 billion that Carter had accumulated of federal debt over 4 years as, quote, unforgivable, Michelle, if she was elected president, or whoever is elected president, will suffer impetus for exacerbating the accumulation of federal debt all the further, while it will be impossible to solve this accumulation without adopting mathematically perfected economy, because anything and everything which sustains a vital circulation under the present obfuscation of the currency can only increase debt further. And the private sector, you see, is already overextended. It's exceeded its creditworthiness. It cannot borrow interest and principal. It's paying out of circulation back into circulation, as of course increases the sum of private debt so much as periodic interest on an ever greater sum of debt. You can't afford to do this any longer. And in fact, I provided to the Reagan administration actual proofs that the present methods of what I call artificial sustention can only fail. That is, I prescribed this probable resorting in the time of the end of this lie of economy to federal overspending as the only means of replenishing a circulation. So if Michelle will hear me out, and if she's intelligent enough to serve as a president who can save us, she will realize that my arguments are the arguments which will prevail over everyone who's spoken about this. And in any case, across the world, my ideas are catching on. I'm permanent front page news on internet news media sites across South America. China follows my work while it's filtered from the Chinese people. The Chinese government regularly study my work. In fact, after I blogged that China, how and why China would never be able to collect on the purported debts to China that we've accumulated, they were within weeks in visiting the Bush administration demanding hard assets. So my work is followed. It's never been invalidated. You'll find the most intellectual of the founding fathers, in fact, their lives pursued the solution that mathematically perfected economy comprises. And I mean, complete with, Benjamin Franklin's paper, Modest Inquiry into the Nature and Necessity of a Paper Currency. All the people who are advocating spending money into circulation as a solution have actually plagiarized my work from an essay which is called Parable of Perfect Economy, in which I actually give an account of colonial economy, a fictional account of colonial economy in my own words, which account describes mathematically perfected economy in the words of Mike Montagne, stylized as Benjamin Franklin might speak them. But in the parable, the story is issued through the purely fictional mouth of Benjamin Franklin. In fact, Jacques Jaquerin plagiarized that story, not even realizing it wasn't history, even after he had written and corresponded with me substantially, in his book Debt Virus, which was one of the first major works. But all these people, Bill Still, Ellen Hodgson Brown, Stevens, Arlinga, have merely plagiarized my work, and they can't even articulate the problems, much less the solution. So anyway, I'm just saying this, and not to rattle on, but to hopefully convince you that this is possibly the most important call you could get, upon which, Michelle's deserved election would hinge.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting information. What I'm going to do is I'm going to forward this directly to our media staff. His name's Doug. I just need a little bit more information from you.
Sure.
Where are you stationed right now?
I'm in Eastern Oregon, Sumter, Oregon, which is a small town of rednecks.
That's fine. And let me double check the spelling on your last name. Montagne?
No, Tagne.
Okay. Wonderful.
It's French. It actually means mountain, but I've always told people after I say it's French and they can't spell it or pronounce it, I say it's French. It means jerk.
All right.
Listen, I might also mention that I've actually provided a prescription for mathematically perfected economy to every president since and including Gerald Ford, and to most of the candidates for office, anyone who was possibly conducive, and this issue has been escalated to the top immediately, to the top of campaigns such as Jerry Brown's 1992 campaign against Bill Clinton. His best friends paid for a $500 plate dinner to introduce me to him and to provide a 25-page thesis on mathematically perfected economy. I never heard from the candidate again, but I still regularly hear from his best friends, who are fully convinced from the beginning and through now that he was wrong. I don't know what his fear was, but I can tell you truly, I shook his hand and I got the coldest, limpest handshake of my lifetime. He acted like I was telling him about something that would be the last thing anyone running for president would ever want to consider because it would put them in danger or something stupid like that. But mathematically perfected economy is second-grade arithmetic, and if Michelle really wants to make this fellow a one-term president here, I have an envelope within 3 feet of my head, which his campaign requested in 2008, I think it was later 2007, which is was an offer not only to propose mathematically perfected economy in detail to now President Obama, but to disprove all other contending theses, which my original work accomplished in 1968. So, I have. I don't like to throw dirt around, but I have the goods on the president, and if she really wants to make some waves, I'm probably the greatest resource she could ever rely upon.
Okay, that's great. All right, I'll get to work on that, and
Jesse.
Hopefully you'll hear from Doug soon, or
Great.
one of our other media.
I'll be here all day if he wants to call, and
okay.
ready and willing to speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna send all the information I took to him. So.
Okay, great, Jesse. Hey, a pleasure to
All right.
talking to you. Glad to talk to someone
Yeah.
who's, has open ears and an open mind and can realize that
Yeah.
something might be important because, we're trying to save, not only our own country here, but the world. And,
Mhm.
something has to
Yeah.
happen like this. You understand?
All right.
Great, Jesse.
That's great.
Pleasure
All
talking
right.
to
Thank
you
you so
again.
much.
Okay, you have a great day, all right?
You too. Bye
Okay,
bye.
thanks, bye. Of course, to the newly initiated to these matters and this long ongoing effort, it might seem that this was a positive initial encounter, yet it's been 5 days since this contact was made and not a word of reply. I likewise made a call, several calls, at the end of this week, attempting to contact the formative Rick Perry campaign. I made some inroads to making contact through telephone numbers, which were difficult to find and to trace out. And similarly, received such a response from people who are close to Rick Perry. We can't say that either candidate can be held responsible for not responding, and that intermediate personnel are involved, at which the effort may die. Perhaps they won't convey the message in its full implicit magnitude, whatever. Nonetheless, most of us presume in our somewhat naive belief, usually, in representative process, that is, that representative process actually exists and intends to serve us. We believe that we would believe that certainly over 43 years that material such as this would reach a candidate who would prevail in public debates between the other candidates, as Jason Draper in Canada probably recently did in running for a seat in Parliament. But this hasn't happened in the United States or largely across the world. The few candidates who have only recently taken up this charge of mathematically perfected economy to serve their respective people have done so of their own volition. That is, after studying my work, have decided to run for office on a platform of mathematically perfected economy. Now, I'm not going to play the Rick Perry telephone calls that I made. I have several of them. But in order not to frighten out people who I didn't know how close they were to the president, I didn't inform them that, I was recording the discussion and I have no business, producing such a thing. So we're waiting still, likewise, for response, while yet indeed the people who I spoke to were so anxious to connect him with me that, they mentioned that he was in flight, scheduled to land within a half an hour the other day, and that they would get the information to him immediately, which is, in truth, and I don't say this in a self-flattering way, in truth, that's the kind of response that most of us would anticipate in response to a proposition of singular solution and inevitable failure.